Hello everyone, ex-Wallkill Bethelite here. And should Bethelites have expected to remain at Bethel given they have good conduct indefinitely? That's the question. Answer that question. Should the Bethelites have expected to remain at Bethel indefinitely as long as their conduct was up to par? Because I've heard multiple times that Bethelites should not have expected the organization to have a place for them at Bethel after they were accepted. That they should have just expected, I guess, just one day to get a call, hey, we don't need you anymore. This sounds ridiculous. But let's humor, let's humor the concept, because I have heard this from various people for years. So apparently there are people who actually believe that a person who dedicates himself to go and serve at Bethel, selling their home if they had one and everything, should have done so with the concept that any day they're going to give them the boot. Just any day. They didn't necessarily have to do anything wrong. Any day that they were going to just get sent away. The answer to that is very simple. If Watchtower let on that Bethelites should, or people thinking about applying to Bethel should make it a career, then the people should have thought of it as a career. If Bethel said that it was a very temporary thing, then Bethelites should not have expected to remain at Bethel indefinitely. Isn't that simple enough? And I'm not talking about temp workers at Bethel. Of course, if you're a temp worker, the reason why they call it temp work is because you are there temporary. And the reason why they don't call regular Bethelites temp workers, because they were not there temporary. Read my lips. Anybody that was a Jehovah's Witness, an actual Jehovah's Witness, not somebody who knew somebody that was, not somebody that studied for a week along 20 years ago. Anybody that was an actual Jehovah's Witness knows that there were Bethelites, and well, you should know this, that there were temporary workers that would come and help during certain times of the year. If there was a building project, whatever the case may be, they were temporary Bethelites. So that alone, knowing that there's temporary and regular, what's the difference? One is permanent and one is temporary. Okay, well, let's also look at this. What were people encouraged to do prior to going to Bethel? Because if Bethel wanted people to come and just be alert to being possibly sent home at any given point, or just mass layoffs, or let's humor it, mass reassignments, back home, basically. If Bethel wanted people to come to Bethel knowing or expecting that they would just be, there's a good chance they just get sent home, or even a possibility they just get sent home, then what would Bethel encourage people to do prior to going to Bethel? Would they encourage them to pioneer? Bethelites oftentimes don't even get auxiliary. Bethelites don't even get auxiliary pioneer hours. You're doing good to get 10 hours if you're a Bethelite. So why would the organization ask people to pioneer, knowing oftentimes that involves having a part-time job for 2 years before applying to Bethel? If it was temporary, if they just didn't know if they were going to be able to keep the Bethelites or not, if they didn't let on that this was a career, a permanent thing, they shouldn't have had people pioneering. They should have had anybody who wanted to work at Bethel working full-time, saving up money. Because the money that they then saved would be what they fall back on once Bethel reassigned them or told them to leave. This is a fancy word of told them to leave. Some people may have gotten some kind of assignment. I didn't. And the other person from Dayton that I knew that went up to Bethel a few months prior to me that also got sent back, she didn't either. So then we look at it, and both the concept of temporary workers at Bethel and regular Bethelites, and the concept that Bethel definitely 100% encouraged people to pioneer for 2 years, not work and build up money so that they would have something to fall back on. Because once Bethel, once the place that's providing your food and your shelter, it's almost like a kid. If there was a 15-year-old kid living at home, no job, no anything, and their parents said, we're going to reassign you out this house, that would be a problem. Why? They don't have a house to go to. The 15-year-old kid doesn't have a house to go to. The 15-year-old kid doesn't have food. The 15-year-old kid doesn't have money. The 15-year-old kid was completely reliant on their parents to provide for them. So unless that 15-year-old kid does something really bad, they tend to expect that their parents are going to continue to provide for them until they are adults. Bethel is a very similar situation in that a person, regardless of age, is, unless they're working outside of Bethel, reliant on Bethel just like a kid would be reliant on parents. That's the source of your food. That's the source of your shelter. If you're a Bethelite at Bethel, it's almost like you're living at home. In a sense that you're that dependent on Bethel for everything. So Bethel up and saying, hey, we're reassigning you up out of Bethel, that's a big deal. I don't know what people thought, if they just thought all these Bethelites all just had homes somewhere. If they thought all these Bethelites just were all given a lump sum of money. You had people who had been working for free for years. There's no savings necessarily. Definitely not anything to fall back on because you're not expecting that. So it's a big deal. I tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I went to Bethel in the early 2000s. So I will get, from the year 2000, the organization has been around for a long time. You got the CD-ROMs, you got all kinds of stuff. Constantly printing information. Bethel is the world headquarters. They want people to come. They would have provided the necessary information a person needed before they made that decision if it was a very shaky decision. You can come, but you may or may not have a roof over your head at any given time. Find an article anywhere that says anything about people applying to Bethel should not expect it to be permanent. Find it anywhere. You got plenty to look through. From the year 2000, the reason why we don't want to go too much further than that, we don't want to look at articles from after they started sending people home. Yeah, then they might have started to change things. But if we look from 2000 on and we cannot find a single thing coming from the organization at all, in any way, shape, or form, stating that Bethelites needed to, prior to coming, prepare themselves for possibly at any given time having to leave of no fault of their own, just Bethel not having enough space or money or whatever the case may be, that should be written somewhere. That would be very important. And if that's God's organization, they would be at least somewhat concerned for a person's well-being. If a person is applying for a job, and this job is full-time, but it's temporary, like it's contract work, like you're only going to have this contract for a year, they would make it known that it's contract work. They wouldn't have you thinking in any way, shape, or form that it's just a regular full-time job, but you're just going to have unless you cause yourself to get fired. That's worldly organizations. They're going to let you know this is a contract, and this contract is up to this point, or up to this point, and then after that, it could be, we could send you home at any time. We could cancel the contract at any time. They will let you know they could cancel the contract at any time. Worldly companies. God's organization, Bethel, the house of God, would at least hold up to a worldly standard, right? If that Bethelites, quote-unquote, contract was only for a certain period of time, they should have let them know. If that Bethelites contract was up to a period of time and then after that was in question, they could send them home or not. They should have let them know. People need to be able to make arrangements. I think it's a given that Bethel was to be viewed as a career. A career is not permanent. It's not temporary, permanent. They were not, Watchtower was not building and hyping Bethel up to be this paradise on earth for people to come temporarily when they signed up for regular Bethel work. There would be no point in doing that. They wouldn't call it the Bethel family. You would become a member of the Bethel family if it was just a temporary thing. Like you're there one day, the next day they tell you to leave. If that was the case. So to me, you gotta understand that this concept that these people keep having, that Bethelites should not have thought that Bethel was going to be their career, sounds stupid. It sounds stupid, and it sounds like it's coming from people that were half JW. They don't know what they're talking about. But like I said, I'll make a deal with you. Go ahead and find that article prior to the Bethel layoffs. Don't look up after the Bethel layoffs. Show me and say, well, see, yeah, you should have known. No, that was after the fact. Before they did it, they should have let people know. A long time ago, if that was what the case was going to be. So you find that. Show me the article. I know we got a lot of people that do research. Show me the article, the date of the article. And, I will eat my words. But if Bethel told people it was going to be their career, or let on that it was going to be their career, then yeah, that's what they should have expected. Because you wouldn't think that God's one true organization would be dishonest with people. Or you wouldn't think that God's one true organization wouldn't know what they were doing and was incapable of providing that Bethel career for people. I mean, worldly companies are able to provide that career for people looking for whatever career field. There's companies that have been out there for a long time. So we shouldn't expect less of Bethel. And Bethel definitely shouldn't have been having people pioneered and work part-time before attending, if this was something that was up in the air as far as them being there permanently. Before having massive layoffs, Bethel should have told people months in advance so that they can get affairs in order, find jobs. Bethel should have been part-time, not full-time. It should have been part-time so that people could go get part-time jobs and make money to have something to fall back on. If Bethel was this thing that they could just put people out at any given time after people having been there for years. I mean, it just seems ridiculous that people think this, but they do, so let's have the discussion. So 937-789-4029, we'll discuss it. Anybody finding an article where Bethel was warning people about this prior to it happening and not telling people that Bethel was supposed to be their career, then I will eat a bug on video. A nice, fat, juicy, crunchy, green ooze coming out bug. And I don't like bugs. And I will eat it. Put a little hot sauce on it. A little gravy. A little salt, pepper. Season it up. And eat it on video. This is how stupid this is people thinking Bethel was just, everybody was going and it was just temporary for everybody. Like, everybody was a temp. This is stupid, but we'll discuss it. Comment down below. X Wall Kill Bethelite, signing out.